victories, you take out that gas, you slowly get that advantage, and then you start pushing. You start chipping away, taking out Hellions, taking out some tanks here and there, and you just do not let him get a big ball of mag because, like we said, it's the most efficient comp in the game. A lot of people like to call it. The Protoss Death Ball, one of those as well, but
it's definitely Terran's most efficient composition. There's no question about that. If you can get it up and you can get it into that, sturdy, strong position, you get that maxed out mech. It's almost like watching one of those old animes where like the arms and the legs of the mech all form together with the head. Like if you're missing your arms and your legs, like GuMiho was there, the Vikings form part of that body. The siege tanks form part of that body, and the Hellbats and Medivacs form part of that body. You have to have all pieces of the mech. If you're broken, you're gonna lose. Let's go into game number 2 on Catalina.
Down here in the bottom right, in the red, he's up 1-0. It's sKyHigh, CJ Antis.
There he is, taking that early lead in this best of 5. Up to the top right, the Towel Terran, as he's called, the Nine-Tailed Fox. It's GuMiho.
The Nine-Tailed, Nine-Rax Reapering Fox.
Oh! You took that to the next level.
That's what he wants to do. Doesn't quite do it this time.
No, not on Catalina. The last map was perfect for it just because of that extra lip we were talking about and just how it's a 2-player map. You know where your opponent's spawning no matter what. And sKyHigh's TVT is incredible. It's just really quite... It's quite interesting to just watch it unfold. How he draws units into one location, sieges up the other. We saw him do it in that last game where he forced the army to move down the natural ramp. Then he was able to get into position behind the rocks and take out that refinery and a bunch of SCVs with just a few of those siege tank discharges.
You were saying before sKyHigh's positioning in TVT is just absolutely insane, and you were totally right. I mean, you saw it in the beginning of that game. You saw it towards the end where, he was like threatening with his Vikings and Ravens over at that third base, and then he was like kind of thinking about those back rocks. He took them out. Opened up that area of pressure, and then he just moved all the way towards the main. He put his tanks down there, and he dropped in the main, and GuMiho was just, like, totally out of position. He didn't know how to handle that. He was so far behind. He was just, like, GGing out of that game so quick.
Yeah, he was so far behind at that point. Now, in this particular game, we have an earlier gas here for GuMiho. Decides to rush that one out. That's why his barracks and his orbital are late. If you look at the production tab, you can see that. Or if you just look at the command center and the factory going down right here, that's evidence enough to let you know what's going on. So we're going to see a much faster factory and most likely a much faster Banshee build. You could see a drop. We do see this from time to time. Don't think we're going to see a Reaper, but with GuMiho, you never know. We do sometimes see a Reaper come out after the factory just for that extra scout. And actually, there it is. So he is going to make that.
SCV gonna sacrifice himself, gonna run in here. He is gonna see the builds, and will survive for now, actually. So he knows exactly what GuMiho's going for, what to expect.
It's a really lucky scout. If you scout wrong on this map, then the SCV scout's useless because you can't get that info. But if you scout on time, you're gonna know if it's gas first or not. So he gets lucky there, and that's gonna make GuMiho pretty annoyed because now his entire build, his entire opening has been scouted.
Yeah,
it's pretty frustrating.
But I mean, like you mentioned before, on the other side of the coin, GuMiho. He is sending out his SCV here. He's going to send his Reaper possibly in the opposite direction. Or maybe just send that SCV home. But on this map, Catalina, there are huge cliffs all along that main base. It's very easy to just jump in the main and get a lot of scouting information with that Reaper coming out here.
Yeah. And he's going to pop in right now and do some scouting with that Reaper.
Yep. The Marines were there, but again, like, there's just way too much space on that lip.
Does fall, but saw everything. He saw that it's sKyHigh getting the Banshees up, obviously a bit later here. And GuMiho has a really late starport. It looked like he was rushing out Banshees. It looked like he was going for that early cloak, but he instead does not. And it's his opponent, sKyHigh, who gets this. So GuMiho decides to change his build entirely and spend his resources instead on this fast command center that he puts as natural. And he's going to have to defend this really well against the Banshees that sKyHigh's making. Oh, can he deny the scout? It doesn't look like it.
No, not quite. He's got 2 more Marines, but that Hellion is fast. Survives at 6 HP.
This is two really important points of information. Seeing the CC and seeing that it's not Banshees he has to worry about anymore.
Yeah, and I wonder if that CC coming down was actually a response to what he saw on the main base. He's like, oh, okay, you're going Banshees. You're not expanding. Let me try to get ahead, and I'll just try to defend your Banshees here. I have my factory out way early here. I can get a lot of Widow Mines. We saw Center actually do this decently well against Innovation, I think, right?
Yes.
On this map, actually, in the same positions. So.
Yes, you're exactly right. This happened just yesterday. And, you know, right now back at home, GuMiho is just using his reactor that he built earlier on Marines.
Oh, wow.
This happened already yesterday as well with Center doing this to the Innovation Banshee. A different location, the way he put it, but it's really smart, and it totally shuts down the Banshee harass. Banshee's not dead, but it's basically dead. It's going to have to come home for a repair.
Yeah, and with the Viking already on the map, adding those missile turrets as well, it's just... these Banshees don't quite get as much damage as they used to, man.
No, they really don't. So, GuMiho has a fast CC. He's actually mining from it right now. So he's ahead in economy. And he's just making Vikings right now. And like I said, he's using that reactor for Marine production. Or he was, in fact. Now he has cut that briefly. Let's see how he wants to finish up this composition. We see sKyHigh, now that his Banshee got denied, is actually producing a Raven for extra safety. And I think we're going to see most likely a more mech-oriented comp out of him. Let's wait and see, though. Comes that Banshee around the left side.
Where's that Widow Mine? It looks like it's in the middle of the map here, but if you see what GuMiho's got going on, he's got a missile turret and one Viking at each base. It's really hard to get damage done like that.
Yeah, with that starport he got, he just made straight into Vikings. Let's see. I don't think he's going to scan here. He wants to avoid it if possible. He actually brings both Vikings to chase this. This is an opportunity for the other Banshee to go into the main, and there it goes. Wow. No energy on this Banshee, but in a sweet spot here. And that Viking fails to kill the Banshee.
I think GuMiho just freaking out a little bit at that one at the natural, and he's just giving up a lot of kills here. Already up to 6, and going to sacrifice himself for more damage. Gets 8. No, nice repair, actually. Okay, finally it goes down.
That was pretty cool there, tanking an extra shot there with that repair. I don't think he really expected the Banshee to take the long way around and hit his main. And that definitely hurts. Well, here comes down sKyHigh's command center. It's been very late, but he did a lot of damage with his Banshees. GuMiho panicking there a little bit. So composition-wise, GuMiho is researching Stim. He's getting +1 for his Marines. You don't see anything like that from sKyHigh just yet. He does continue Marine production, perhaps just for safety as he transitions into a different comp. And he shows, like, he sees this tech lab, GuMiho does, with that scout with his Vikings, but he knows it's not researching anything. So I think he's starting to get a good idea of what's happening here with sKyHigh's build.
Nice drop coming out here, 8 Marines.
Yeah, and notice sKyHigh has switched into reactored Viking production, knowing that his Viking count is actually pretty behind because he made Banshees and GuMiho have been making Vikings the whole time. I like this, already realizing that he's behind in air control and wants to get that fixed ASAP. And he's got a Raven here for extra PDD support for that air. This drop should be shut down pretty easily. If it gets all unloaded, that's a different story, because he actually doesn't see it. Let's see how much damage this gets done.
It's going to go for it. Immediately he responds, and definitely that medevac will be taken out here.
Can
but
he get
like
the
you
Raven?
said, he gets the Raven here, trying to fight this with this cloaked Banshee, but already these Marines getting a lot of damage. 5 kills here.
5 kills on a Raven. Pretty good trade. It was funny to see the Raven actually accidentally dropping a PDD instead of an auto turret there. Panicked reaction by sKyHigh. But again, sKyHigh loves his positioning. He's already moved into a good location right here at the main base of GuMiho. And is going to want to start picking away at some of these structures. And this hasn't been scouted by GuMiho. He knows he's been scanned, but he doesn't know there's an army here. Now he's starting to figure it out. But with all that Marine support and the Vikings, it's going to be pretty tough to defend this. Good building placement, though, by GuMiho, knowing this is a possibility. And none of his buildings, except that one barracks, I guess, close enough here. He's going to target down this combat shield upgrade.
He's actually aggressively landing his Vikings here, knowing that he has that higher count and that he can just lift off, or lift up rather, once he sees the Vikings of GuMiho coming in here. I do like this counterattack. There is a Widow Mine there, and it's going to need to get a really nice hit. It doesn't really get the best hit here, and that's a lot of Hellions coming in here to the natural, and there's nothing to defend here except the tank.
Yep, this is a lot of damage being done here. And he actually doesn't have much of an answer for this. So many SCVs starting to fall. 7 in total now. And he's going to get even more. 8. Looks like he might get all 11 of those right there.
That was such a good run by with the Hellions. What a nice counterattack here by GuMiho. Keeping us cool, even with tanks down there towards his main.
But here's the scary part for GuMiho. He didn't get combat shields, which is so important when you're going for a comp that's so heavy in Marines. It died before it finished, and he doesn't have access to a tech lab. The only tech lab that's open is in siege tank range. He needs to either force these siege tanks to move or aggressively deal with them. Otherwise, he's not going to get that combat shield until his until he moves his tech lab off of his factory, which means he can't make any more tanks. So
yeah, it seems like for now he's just going to try to reroute his army and just go for the kill, man. He's just going for the throat here. Whereas, sKyHigh, he does have that one Widow Mine. If it does get a nice shot on the Marines, that would be very good for the defense. But at the same time, sKyHigh's going for a drop on the main.
That he is.
Oh, and the Widow Mine shot is really good, but it's just not a lot left here to defend. Just one tank up here on the high ground.
Yeah, he's just committed so many resources to this slow push towards GuMiho's main base that he doesn't have a lot to defend. Reinforcements are coming out. A few Vikings lost here as he's paying attention to his main base a lot more closely than to his attack. But GuMiho is losing a lot of production here. Let's see if he can eventually push this back. He's going to pull his SCVs and try to rush in. If he can push this back, he's going to be in a great spot. Just depends on how efficiently he can do it. Or if he can do it at all.
It doesn't seem like he's able to push this back, man. The Marines slowly filing through here from the natural and coming out of the barracks. He's going to try to drop possibly in the back of these tanks. Here he goes.
Not a terrible choice here, but still not going to be easy. He's going to lose a lot of Marines for this. But meanwhile, sKyHigh's natural has been reclaimed. So he does actually reclaim that natural, is mining from it at this point. GuMiho does have a third CC. It's not made into an orbital just yet, so he can't get triple mules, but he's working on that right now, as you guys just saw. And upgrade-wise, GuMiho's about to be at 1-1 versus just the +1 of sKyHigh that finished right now. Combat shields, though, is another thing entirely, and he still doesn't have that. Combat shield's much better than +1 armor. It's just flat health you're going to get.
Whereas the Marines, as our observer is showing us here, of sKyHigh, do have that combat shields. Yeah. So definitely going to be great in those engagements here, these skirmishes.
Watch these Marines with combat shields fight. Even though they're surrounded here, they're going to do a lot better than you would expect. And they're actually going to stem and run right up into the natural here. Very aggressive play by sKyHigh. He knows he's down that CC, and he really wants to get it. I don't think he's going to be able to actually target that down, but forces a repair, forces good reactions out of GuMiho, knowing his advantages and pushing them, knowing he has combat shields, knowing he can actually fight those Marines that are uncombat shielded. I don't know what to call them, just vanilla Marines, whatever you want to call those. They have less health, and he's got a ton of Marines with stim and medevacs to just out-DPS them. Or not even out-DPS, but outlast them. They've got that extra healing power. There's extra health.
We do see GuMiho finally is researching that, but it looks like sKyHigh doesn't want to give him that time. Here we go. Nice setup here. These tanks on the ramp are going to do a ton of damage to these Marines.
Yeah, with no combat shields, they don't last very long, especially with more siege tank support here by sKyHigh. He is eventually going to push this back. Ended up being a decent trade there for sKyHigh. And GuMiho now moving across the map. He's got a ton of barracks production, actually. He was finally able to get all that powered up. The third CC is moving towards that third base location to land. This is something that Sky absolutely needs to deny right now because he's still himself only on 2 bases. And if he allows GuMiho to take that third, it's going to eventually catch up with him because he's got the combat shields about to finish. That upgrade advantage that Sky had is about to run out.
That it will here. He's going for a big drop, but he's running into some Vikings. He's going to have to drop out here.
Sky has got to be starting to feel a little bit desperate because he's running out of options. GuMiho's third base is landed. He's going to do a double drop, a huge quad drop to the top left to draw the army away and to send this army into the natural where GuMiho might not be expecting him. In fact, he's got nothing there anymore since he just sent his own drop. It's only a turret here.
Well, okay, this could do some decent damage. He's got a tank in range here to defend, but he needs to get those reinforcements. And at the same time, sKyHigh is going to try to run in possibly towards the main base, maybe go for a drop or towards that third base.
Army supply is still in sKyHigh's favor. He's got a larger army just slightly. He needs to use it properly here. This drop will get shut down. USCV is going with it, though. 5, it looks like here. Sky is running into that third base. He scans. He sees it's exposed. This is his moment. This is his opportunity. Picks up a siege tank. He's going to attack that damaged TC. Going to fight these Marines instead
yeah.
first. This is his moment. This is his opportunity. He has to make this work right now.
He's taking a great trade here, but the concave here is much better for GuMiho. And the SCVs are coming out here. There's only one tank to support, and now the Vikings are coming in from behind.
Oh, those Vikings really hurting him here. He loses a medevac. He tries to outmaneuver, going into the main base now. But there's just too much army here. I feel eventually he's going to get pushed back by reinforcing units. Another drop hits the third base again, and he's actually attacking that at the same time. But he's lost way too many units, I feel here, Valdez. Still no third CC in sight. He's starting to get mined out in his main base. And this drop didn't do enough.
He's just trying to pull himself back into the game, but it's not quite working. It seems like GuMiho with that last defense has really grabbed control of this game right now. You guys can see in the top right the supply. You see he's ahead 32 or more at this point. He's going for an attack right now, pushing across the map, but I don't feel like he really has to. You know, sKyHigh does not have that third CC, and sKyHigh is the one that's just desperately attacking. As long as GuMiho does not take any more losses, he's just going to get further and further ahead.
No. I mean, the army of GuMiho is now massive. He's had enough time to get it up. Look at this production, 11 Marines at a time. And this attack here is basically sKyHigh's last chance, but I feel like he's already missed his window. All GuMiho has to do is press E on his siege tanks and smile, knowing that his economy is so far ahead, his positioning to control this third base is complete. He doesn't have to worry about anything anymore. He's got enough units and enough production to rally units to defend his main base. Is natural. He's close enough to those units that he's rallied that he's going to be fine there. He's got Vikings to help shut down these drops, which he's been using consistently, and this is going to be the last nail in the coffin. Oh, that Widowmine hit! Oh, it hurts!
That was a desperate drop if I ever saw it, but it was his last shot, and GuMiho is able to even it up here 1-1. Not going down so easily to sKyHigh's TVT.
What a great series this is turning out to be. Very aggressive early games. You know, just I feel like TVT is one of those matchups where you can take a look at the game and see exactly both players' objectives. And Sky is like, okay, I've got these little advantages. I have to kill the third base. That's my win condition. And GuMiho's win condition is I have to hold this third base because I keep checking, I keep attacking him, I keep dropping, I keep scanning. He doesn't have a third CC. And that one focal point of this matchup is just so intense because there's drops coming every way. You've got to make sure you position your Vikings well. I love that GuMiho always had those two Vikings because they're up at the top left of his main base, so if a huge drop came from that way, he would see it long